All right, let's talk about Barbados. If you want to really get a handle on one of DC's most terrifying cosmic horrors, we're not going to start with some big epic fight. Nope, we're going to start with a story. It's a really simple allegory, actually, about a cosmic workshop, a master sculptor, and, well, the day his greatest creation decided to turn on him. This is the story of Barbados. So, I want you to picture this. Forget everything you think you know about the Big Bang. Instead, just imagine a master sculptor. He's in this huge, brightly lit workshop right at the very edge of the universe. And this is Alpheus, the world forger, literally shaping reality with his bare hands. See, this whole idea of creation as a kind of art, that's the key. It's the foundation for everything that's about to happen. Okay, so let's set the scene here. We're talking about the World Forge, creation at the dawn of time. We're going way, way back to where universes are actually born. And this isn't some chaotic mess, you know? It's a place of deliberate, careful creation with a very specific system in place. And this right here really shows you the basic cosmic setup. Think of it like this. On one hand, you've got the multiverse we all know and love. These are the beautiful, stable statues, the successful creations. They're forged from hope, and they get sent up into the light. But then there's the other side of it. It's shadow, the dark multiverse. This is basically the sculptor's basement, his discard pile. It's a dark cellar just crammed with every single flawed, nightmarish creation born from fear, just tossed down there and left to rot. Now, let's get to the dragon's purpose, his divine function. Because, any system, even a cosmic one, needs a little maintenance. The sculptor couldn't just let all those failed worlds pile up forever, right? He needed a janitor, a failsafe. And to do that job, he made something truly massive, something primal. And that beast's name? Barbatos. Now, it's really important to get this. He wasn't born from the nightmares he was supposed to be watching over. No, he was a deliberate creation of the World Forger himself. A great dragon, an ancient predator, designed for one single, crucial purpose. So, what was that purpose? Well, his job was actually pretty straightforward. Barbatos was basically the beast of burden for the whole World Forge. Think of him as a cosmic recycling machine. His whole divine function was to just eat up all those failed universes and return their raw energy back to his master so new things could be created. So, in the beginning, he wasn't a bad guy at all. He was a necessary, totally vital part of the whole creation process. But you know how these things go. Every great story of creation seems to have a story of a great fall, a rebellion. And this is where things take a very, very dark turn. This is the great betrayal, a hunger for failure. Yeah, this is the part where the cosmic janitor decides he wants to own the whole building. The vibe of our story is about to change big time. And you know what? It all started with just one taste. As he was doing his job, consuming these worlds made of pure fear and nightmare, he started to, he developed an appetite for them. He actually began to enjoy the taste of failure, the feeling of despair. And that was something he was absolutely never, ever supposed to feel. And that one little taste, it spiraled into a full-blown obsession. His entire divine function, the very reason he was created, got completely corrupted. It turned into this destructive, insatiable hunger. He wasn't just cleaning up anymore. Oh no, he was feasting. The whole purpose he was built for was just being erased, overwritten by this raw, predatory desire. So what happens when you have this all-consuming hunger? It leads you to do the unthinkable, the ultimate act of betrayal. The beast of burden turned on its own creator. Barbados, the great dragon, straight up murdered Alpheus, the world forger, the master sculptor of the entire multiverse, gone. And with his master out of the picture, Barbatos completely flipped the script. He totally inverted his job. That dark cellar, it wasn't a graveyard anymore. It became his personal farm, his kingdom. Instead of destroying the nightmares, he let them sit there, let them rot and fester. And he cultivated them into a horrifying army, an army with one single goal: climb out of that cellar one day and just consume all the light. Okay, so let's get into the how. The Judas tribe's ritual, forging a door. I mean, think about it. How does a cosmic horror trapped in a multiversal basement actually get out? He can't just kick down the door, right? He needs a key.
But actually, it's more than that. He needs people on the other side to build him a doorway, piece by agonizing piece, over centuries.
And slowly but surely, his influence started to leak out into the light. He found himself some agents in the world above. And on Earth, well, we know them as the Court of Owls. Now, these guys saw themselves as Gotham's secret masters, right? But in reality, they were just his Judas tribe. They were worshipping a bat god they didn't even begin to understand. They were promised all this power, but let's be real, they were just tools.
And their plan, wow, it was an incredibly long game, a ritual that spanned generations. It started with just worshiping this bat god. Then it got more specific, secretly applying 5 cosmic metals to one specific person. You guessed it, Batman. All those undead Talon assassins they had, that was just practice. The real endgame, the whole point of this centuries-long plot, was to transform Batman himself into a living tuning fork, one that would vibrate at the perfect frequency to rip a hole straight into the dark multiverse. And the whole ritual, the real core of it, was all about these 5 very specific, very cursed metals. We're talking electrum, dionysium, promethium, nth metal, and yes, batmanium. Every single one of them is a kind of heavy metal that comes from the dark multiverse. So the Owls spent years, decades, manipulating everything behind the scenes just to make sure Batman came into contact with each one. They were slowly poisoning him, prepping him, turning his body into a gateway, and he had no idea.
So after all that plotting, all that prep work, it finally happens. The bat becomes a door, the dragon's arrival. The final piece of metal is in place, that living tuning fork starts to ring, and the door between worlds is just torn wide open, and through it steps Barbatos. Which, of course, leads us to the big question for his loyal followers, right? After centuries of faithful, secret service to their god, after all that work, did the Court of Owls finally get their reward? Did they get that power they were promised? Did they get to rule at his side? Well, the answer was brutally simple and pretty cold. A dragon has no need for janitors once the door's already open. The second Barbatos stepped through that portal, his nightmare army just swarmed and consumed the Owls. He used them, and then he threw them away like trash. The reward for centuries of loyalty, they got to be the first meal. And this is maybe the most important thing to understand about him. Barbatos is not just some demon. He's not a monster of the week you can just, punch or exercise. He's a fundamental force of the multiverse, a world eater. He was there at the very beginning of creation, and his betrayal literally corrupted a core function of the entire universe. And that really leaves us with one final, absolutely terrifying thought that this whole story builds to. The system was designed to have a way to get rid of nightmares. But what happens when the disposal system itself becomes the biggest nightmare of all? What happens when a fundamental fear learns how to organize, how to plot, and how to build an army? That is the true horror of Barbatos.